Hey everyone, we are back with our second of our best TV shows of all time. There are 10 we're going to do. We're probably going to go over 100 because I was looking at our massive list and I'm like, this is long. But maybe we'll...
You should have cut it down first.
Yeah, well, we didn't because there were too many and we got confused. So
I didn't... What? Okay.
All right, so this is the second one. As we said in the last one, this is no particular order because there were just too many and there are so many that crossed over on both our lists that we just decided we're just going to do this.
It was too much work.
Yeah, let's be honest.
Let's not do it.
It was too much work to come up with 100. Honestly, we were looking at a couple and it was like the best 100 and it ended up having like 126 or something and they were in alphabetical order. So clearly, like, this is a problem for everyone.
Yes, we're just doing some random shows we like. Most of them are in our favorite 100 or so.
Right. It's also super hard with TV. I mean, even, like, movies can be tough because they're different genres. Same with books and stuff. But, like, TV's even harder because it's not only is it different genres, there's different formats. And then, like, some are, like, long shows. Some are short miniseries. Some are sitcoms. Some go on.
Some are multi-camera. Some are single cam.
Yeah, I don't think that matters.
Doesn't really matter much.
Although, and some, like, kind of drag on way too long because there used to be a time when TV shows were like, let's just keep going until they stop paying us. And now they seem to be like...
Well, they still do that, but not all of them.
Very rarely, yeah. And also streaming doesn't seem to be, like, the pay structure is different. So now people are like, I'll just make the show good. And I don't have to write, like, 28 episodes because we got to get sweeps.
The golden age of television.
Yeah. Anyway, so here's some more. So we'll do the same thing we did last time where we'll alternate between ones each of us wants to talk about and then our combined ones. So I am going to start with the show. This is on Netflix. There's 2 seasons. It's American Vandal.
Ooh, also known as You Can't Stop the Dicks.
Yeah. Is that what it was?
No.
I
didn't draw the dicks.
Yeah, right.
But I was, anyway.
Yeah. So American Vandal is, like a parody of true crime. And it's
and
like...
this could change everything.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like, if you like or have ever... Even if you don't like true crime, if you've watched enough true crime or listened to true crime podcasts, you'll really appreciate, like, the humor here. But it's not just such a parody that it's like slapstick. It takes itself seriously, but obviously like the topic. In the first season, it was like who painted like dicks on a teacher's car in like the school parking lot. And the second one was like who put a laxative in like the basketball team's like food or something.
I like how one of like the detective breakdown sessions is comparing drawings of penises. Like, he doesn't draw the balls the same way as the balls on the car.
Right. Like, they use all the same sort of forensic tactics, but it's just for like this nonsense kind of plot. But it's really funny. And just, I wish it was like 50 seasons, although one of the things I think is smart is that a lot of shows are like, we don't have more ideas and we're done. So I hope that, like, more people learn from that. But because I'd rather miss a show than kind of be like, yeah, I liked that show, but, eh. Yeah. And speaking of that, here's one for the two of us. And that kind of...
What wasn't for the two of us?
No, you didn't like... You said you didn't like it that much.
Oh, no, okay. Yeah, you're right.
So speaking of shows that went on too long... and didn't end well.
I almost just referenced this.
How I Met Your Mother, right?
Yeah, really great characters, like great like dialogue. One of the things I really like about TV shows when they have like ongoing jokes that they like don't go to all the time. It's like long stretches and it comes back suddenly.
The slap bet.
Yeah, the slap bet is like the most obvious example of this. The last season is one of the worst seasons of television you're ever going to see in your entire life. And the second to last season is only okay, but the first like 6 or so are really fun and excellent, and like sort of like a fill-in for Friends after Friends ended.
Yeah, and I think the problem is like, I mean, part of it is the issue of, and I don't know if they fell into the same trap that Lost did, which was everyone kind of guessed on the mother, and then they were like, oh no, we're gonna change it, but then they like got like just comfortable in the show, and then they went back to the thing they were going to do originally, even though they said they weren't going to do it. And so it like just ended up being frustrating because we were like, okay, but you told us that wasn't the ending, and then you made that the ending anyway, and kind of even in a
like, this
different
big
way.
False ending for like a season that was so awful.
Yeah.
If you watch this show, do not watch the last season. You might be tempted to. Do not do it.
Yeah, you'd just be better off, like, because like it was so fun for so long, and then it just kind of fell off. And so what ends up happening is, like, a lot of times, like, this and Lost are really good examples of shows that, like, I look back on, and I just kind of have, like, this bad taste in my mouth. But then, like, I watched every season, and I loved them until towards the end of the show. So, you know, you kind of have to be like, okay, it's actually a great show.
It still gets to rate high, despite the fact that it has a crap ending.
Right, because, like, the first few, like he said, the first few seasons of this are some of the best comedy I've seen on TV. Like, I love it. I love these characters. And then I just wish, like, I just kind of want to wipe it from my brain.
Yeah, it also got, what's his name? Barney Stinson.
Neil Patrick Harris,
like, back. Like, revitalized his career.
Well, I think Harold and
Kumar gave him the chance at this, and this would, like, solidify. After this, he was everywhere.
But I think this was, like, Jason Segel's breakout for sure.
Freaks and Geeks was his breakout.
He was in that?
Yes.
See, I don't even remember that. Mm-hmm. So he was in that
he
show.
Was the drummer. The guy was obsessed with rock.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's right. But yeah, but I feel like he became like a lot more popular after this show. But again, maybe that was also just because I think he had that connection to Judd Apatow.
Yes.
Yeah. So all right. So this is one of Sir Chonk's. I don't like this show that much.
You're blocking entirely. I can't see. Oh yeah, The State. This is a classic. Back in the 90s, it's a sketch comedy show called The State, obviously, and it was just insanely bizarre. There was like a few recurring characters that were humorous and like some one-liners that were funny, but like it was just insane, bizarre skits. Like there's one where they just like murder and eat Muppets, right? There's one where there's like a sideways house and people are walking in like breaking their necks. People are sticking their asses in pudding. It's amazing. So yeah, this is. Thomas Lennon's probably the most famous person out of this.
Michael Ian Black is
fairly popular. There's like a lot of guys that pop up. Like if you watched, was it Reno 911?
Yeah.
What joke? I think Joe Latruglio, I believe, is in that show.
I think she is too. Carrie, whatever.
David Wayne does a lot of directing and stuff. So like, a lot of these people have gone on to consistently appear in things, but none of them are major stars. But this show is great. It was so bizarre. I absolutely loved it. If you like old school sketch comedy, where it's just like chaos, this is a great show to try to track down and watch.
Yeah, like speaking of sketch comedy, we don't have a couple of things on our lists, which are like Monty Python, was it Flying Circus?
Yeah.
And Kids in the Hall. And it's not because either of us thinks they're not good. It's just that like everything I've seen of Monty Python, everything I've seen of Kids in the Hall, I've enjoyed. Or, you know, even if I don't enjoy them, I think they're great.
Monty Python is awesome, but I've probably only seen like 10% of the show.
Right, so we don't feel
like...
it's
hard to be like, I love this show, and I've only seen such a small amount of it.
Yeah, it just feels like we're kind of just like being hipsters. Yeah. But yeah, he definitely has watched The State way too much.
I used to quote it obnoxiously.
Yeah, it was kind of annoying, actually.
What the... How rude.
I don't like The State as much.
Soda. I would have asked for a small soda. Anyway, go ahead.
Although I do really like the cast. I just didn't like a lot of the skits.
Well, you know what I like.
No, we're not gonna. We're not putting that. No, we're not putting that on our video. All right, so my next one in the kind of totally.
My balls in it.
Oh, great. So probably not to say that in like the kids show.
Well, I want to get my balls in the kids show.
So I'm going on to a kids show. It's kind of a kids show.
I want to get my balls in some Baba Ganoush.
Okay, so go look up The State if you want to know what he's yelling about balls.
Where's Jesus of Nazareth? He went that way, and he's yelling about his balls.
Great. All right. So my show is also from the 90s. There was a attempt at a remake, and I'm just going to pretend that didn't happen. So this was like a Nickelodeon. It was on, I think it was Snick, which was like Saturday Night Nick. And it was like, I think that was with Clarissa Explains It All, or was it Sabrina? I think it was Clarissa.
It was early enough. It was Clarissa.
Yeah, and then it was a couple other things. But I used to love this show. And I was probably too old to love the show as much as I did, because I didn't really like... This show came out when I was like in late in my high school years. But it's
You were 37.
It's sort of a... it's like a younger version. It's basically Goosebumps, you know. But it's like Tales of the Crypt for kids. where basically it's a group of kids. I think it was Canadian, if that tells you anything. So, and it was a group of kids, and they would get together at, like, the campfire, and they would tell scary stories. And so each episode started with them telling the story, submitting the story for I can't remember the name of the club. I forgot. I thought it was going to say Midnight Club.
Campfire Midnight Potato?
It's not Midnight Club, though. Isn't that Christopher Pike?
Yeah.
Well, Midnight Society, maybe?
No,
anyway.
Ghost Society?
Whatever. The name, and then, like, I'm going to hate myself that I can't remember it because it was, like, it's a huge part of the show. But anyway, every episode, they would get together and they would tell stories and they would submit it for, the group. And then the rest of the episode was basically the story. There's a really funny one of, like, Ryan Gosling being in, like, he's, like, the bratty brother who, like, gets his brother killed by, like, because he's jealous of him or something. I don't know. It was, like, nonsense. But the show is just fun. And, like, again, I was probably a little too old to be enjoying it as much as I did. But I loved Fear Street. I loved Christopher Pike. I liked anything that was, like, that kind of, like, younger horror, but, like, not too young that it was, like, not actually kind of, not creepy at all, but not so, like, not just so violent and over the top that I was just, like, grossed out and, like, it felt unnecessary. It was, like, a fun horror. So this was, and I think this was, like, that era, like, that early to mid-90s was, like, the era of, like, cutesy fun horror. That was, like, that PG-13 horror. Did you ever see this?
I mean, I've seen a few episodes. I haven't seen too much of it.
Yeah,
I feel like it's the kind of thing I probably would have liked when I was, like, 8.
Yeah, right, exactly. Or even, like, at 15. But, like, if you watch it when you're 30, you're like, it's not really working for me.
It's a little late.
All right, so this is one together we're going to talk about. And this show really grew on me.
Heaps.
So this is Wellington Paranormal. And we actually, like, were really frustrated because we wanted to watch it, and it took a while to get to the U.S.
Yeah, it wasn't available in the U.S. for years. Maybe not years, but definitely a long time.
Yeah, we were trying to get it, and then it finally came onto, like, I forget what channel, but it finally appeared, or maybe it was Hulu or something.
Maybe it probably was Hulu, because that's where what we
Yeah, and then I don't know if it was on a TV channel or if it was just Hulu. But this is, like, produced by Jermaine Clement.
I think it's the same, essentially, team who did What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, right.
And these two characters, actually, the two main characters, the cops, appear in the movie, not the TV show, but the movie, What We Do in the Shadows.
Yeah.
And they decided to make a sort of like a spin-off show about them, and it's hilarious. Like two bumbly cops just running into insanely bizarre situations and handling it in a very mellow sort of way.
Yeah, they're all, like, paranormal, but it's, like, it's comedy horror. Like, none of the stuff's actually scary, but it's just... And it's kind of the same. It's like The Office, where it's like it's supposed to be like real
like a film crew.
Documentary. Yeah,
I think the film crew gets killed at one point.
Yeah, it's and they like chat with the film crew. It's funny. It's just smart. But it took me a while. Like, I mean, I liked the first few episodes, but I was just kind of like, eh. But I mean, it was the same thing with like all of those shows, like all these like office workplace kind of like shows. It's like the show isn't really about anything that's, like, compelling. It's the characters. And after a few episodes with the characters, you just can't wait to see what antics they can do. What was the side guy's name? He wasn't the main character. He was always, trying to...
He didn't hardly do anything till, like, season 3.
Yeah, he was always... I forget.
Hey, boss, can I join in? Like, that guy, like, he just, like, doing nonsense.
Yeah, there's these two main cops, and then there's their chief, and then there's this other cop who, like, just never has anything to do, and he's always trying to help out, and he always ends up becoming, like, the victim of whatever monster of the week it is,
right.
And, like, he's just... I just liked... You get to the point where you just really like those little things. You're like, here, what kind of chaos is he getting himself into now?
Yeah.
And
very fun. If you like a sort of... It's a little different style, because it's New Zealand comedy, right? So it's like, it's very funny, but it's like slightly different. So if you see like a million U.S. comedies, you're getting kind of bored with them, this is a really nice change of pace that's hilarious.
Yeah, and if you're a fan of What We Do in the Shadows, or The Office, or any of those kind of style of shows, you probably really like this.
Yeah, if you like What We Do in the Shadows or Flight of the Conchords, you're going to like this.
Yeah, and again, it's like The Office with a paranormal twist. So, I mean, but it's the same type of side, the kind of quiet humor, I guess, right?
Yeah.
All right, so the next one is a Sir Chong show that I've never actually seen.
Ooh, the tragically short-lived animation gold Dungeons and Dragons. So being a gigantic Dungeons and Dragons nerd as a young lad and somewhat less, but still a little bit now, I, of course, was elated to discover this was
I'd say
a
you're a
TV
more
show.
gigantic nerd.
What's up?
You're a more gigantic nerd now.
A bigger nerd, but less of a Dungeons and Dragons nerd.
No, I mean just like you're literally bigger.
Part of me will I roll your chonk out of my way so I can get to the microphone. So anyway, Girthtacular. So Dungeons and Dragons has some fun characters. The best ones, of course, were the two main villains, Venger and Tiamat. They were the greatest. But basically, a bunch of regular kids take a ride in an amusement park, and like always happens in an amusement park, you get teleported to the Dungeons and Dragons world. And they try to find their way back through many adventures. It's only lasted, I think, 1 season, 2 seasons, maybe?
Are you not a bigger amusement park fan then?
I think 2 seasons. But it was awesome. Like, it's really dated. It's from, like, 84 or something. So, like, if you watch it now, you're going to be like, this is kind of not the best show. But I still love it because, like, you know, I love Dungeons and Dragons. It's, like, the only, like, thing that they had for it at the time. And it was just really fun.
Doesn't it seem weird that there's not more, like, Dungeons and Dragons, like, video games and TV shows and like
I feel
generally
like it's so popular you think there'd be more of it, but there's more like people like have it but they break off from it so they have to pay the licensing.
Yeah, that's right.
So they basically do Dungeons and Dragons stuff without like
they do the same concept.
Like oh, The Witcher, that's nothing to do with Dungeons and Dragons. I mean,
right, but I mean they're all like
right.
But well, it's a little different, but yeah, the same concept. RPG
of most of high fantasy, which is again this is Dungeons and Dragons, of course, rip off of Tolkien in the first place.
Yeah.
But whatever.
I like the new movie, but to be honest, I also liked the original movie, the one with like was it Thor Birch?
Thor Birch is one of the main characters.
Yeah, and like one of the Wayans brothers.
Yep.
I liked that movie. I think apparently we were like 2 of the 5 people who liked it.
But I liked it because it was Dungeons and Dragons.
Right, I just thought it was fun.
Like it's got some like Jeremy Irons acting in that movie is so aggressively over the top. It's like he's trying to Nicolas Cage himself or something. But regardless, it's fun. It's a fun movie that I like. Yeah, I like any Dungeons and Dragons crap though.
All right, so my next one is a childhood favorite, and this is Macguyver. And I was like debating, and I was like, should I really put this on there? But I gotta be honest. I was obsessed with this show when I was little. Like, I absolutely loved it. I couldn't wait for it to be on. I just was, like, so excited by it. I just thought he was the coolest person on the planet. Like, because you could just get out of anything with, like, a piece of gum and, like, a roll of tinfoil. And it was just so fun. And then, like, now there was, like, a remake of it, and it was just bad. And then, like, the Macguyver thing makes you kind of laugh. But, like, it was just so much fun at the time. And I feel like, again, even if I went back and watched the original, like, I know they remade it and I didn't like it, but I feel like if I went back and watched the original, I'd be like, what was I thinking? This was not very good. But I just was so into this show when I was younger that I have to include it because I absolutely loved it. And apparently they're talking about possibly making a movie, which would probably be fun.
Ooh, nice. It'd have to be tongue-in-cheek, though, a little bit.
Yeah.
You couldn't take it too
seriously. Like the 21 Jump Street one, which was great.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So I like this show. I didn't love it, but the best thing to me that came out of this show is the sort of universal phrase of when you're doing something, you go, just Macguyver that shit.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right, because like it was just so like I mean I like spy shows anyway. I kind of like this type of stuff. But it was always just interesting to see what he would come up with to like find his way out of a situation. So the next one is Both of Us. And this is another HBO show. You're going to see a theme that HBO shows often make our list, and they often are both of our favorites.
They're good at making TV stuff.
Yeah, there's a new True Detective coming out. We didn't actually like the first season of True Detective and didn't see the other ones. Yeah. But the new one is like, it's been a while, and it also looks, like this one looks pretty good, so we might try it.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Disappointed in the other ones. This is great, though.
Yeah.
So this first episode, like, it's rare when, like, the first episode is so much better. Like, look, all the episodes are good, and it ends great. So maybe the last episode is in competition, but the first episode of this show is so incredibly intense and fast-paced. It's like if you watch this and you don't want to watch the rest of it, I don't know what's wrong with you. It sets up the chaos and the mystery so good. It's fantastic. Also worth mentioning, there's a subplot about a cat that's like one of the most spectacularly emotionally involving subplots I've ever seen.
But the cat doesn't die.
Right, spoiler. The cat
Well,
doesn't die.
yeah, but I spoil things like that because I know, like, personally, I won't watch it if I think there's a chance that the animal dies.
Well, I don't think it's gonna die. There's this thing with the store and everything. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, and then I don't want to ruin it, but right near the very end of the show, there's like this short clip that's so good, it'll like kick your face off.
Right, it's amazing, but at least you can know going in that you can, like, you're not going to have to, like, cry over, like, an animal death.
Also, John Turturro, absolutely amazing in this.
Yeah, and Riz Ahmed. I mean, you have Riz Ahmed and John Turturro, and, like, a lot of other actors who are great, but, like, it's basically those two are, like, the primary cast.
Yeah.
And they're both just so damn good that, like, but yeah, if you don't know about this show, because I don't feel like it got, like, a ton of hype. It was like a short miniseries just about, what was it, 8 episodes, 6 episodes?
7 episodes.
Yeah, it was like a short miniseries about a guy who was there, essentially, on the night of a crime. And so they were, like, trying, and then basically he looks like there's no way he didn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
But he insists he didn't do it. And so it's like, well, how is that possible? And then there's, like, it's great because it's a great mystery to begin with. And then there's a whole lot of, like, just, exploring kind of assumptions. And, he happens to be a Muslim man. And so it's like, there's, like, automatically people don't trust him. And, so there's, like, some of that kind of, like, social element, too, which is really good. But, I mean, the mystery is just fantastic.
Agreed.
So, and I mean, even what's kind of interesting, I think, is as a viewer, you also, like, you have this main character, and the whole time you're like, do I like this character or not? And we're not going to spoil anything, but it's kind of like, I mean, who is telling the truth, and you're never really sure. Mm-hmm. So, all right, so Sir Chong has his last one. And this is actually a 3-parter because they were, like, so similar, and I thought he'd probably want to just talk about them.
Make my top 100.
You said they would.
No, I said I liked them, but anyways, here's some shows I like. None of these would be on my top 100, but they're all pretty fun. So I got into these, like, I think last summer.
Yeah, you were, like,
I got into, like, these Korean sort of reality competition shows. It's Physical 100, Siren, Survive the Island, and Run for the Money. And Physical is just they have 100 people of all. It's kind of cool because it's all different. Like, there's like a firefighter, there's an Olympic athlete, there's a ballet dancer, there's a weightlifter, and they give them all these different kinds of challenges. Obviously, some that work in the favor of others, and just like who is the most well-rounded, physically gifted. It's really fun. It's kind of simple. There's not much plot.
So it goes from 100 down to 1.
But it's really fun. And then Siren Survive the Island is like a bunch of people. Essentially, it's like intense.
It's all women, right?
Yeah. It's all, is it?
Yeah, I think that was the point.
So it's a bunch of, like, groups of women who have to, like, they're all on this island, they get put in teams, and basically they have to, like, it's kind of like capture the flag. Everybody is like a fortress. They have to defend, but they also have to, like, sneak out and, like, steal other people's flags, and there's all kinds of, like, rules and, like, adjustments, and, like, everything's timed a certain way, and you can buy, like, things to help you, like, defend or attack your opponents if you earn certain points. It's really fun. And then Run for the Money is like, I don't know, hide and seek on overdrive. They basically just have a bunch of people in, like, this small town, kind of. And they have to hide from these people, these seekers, these, like, creepy masked dudes who just show up and try to find you. And they got to tag you. So if they see you, you can try to run away from them. But most of the chaser guys are crazy fast. So unless you're, like, an insane athlete, which some people are, there's, like, a few people that are, like, on the hide people that are, like, insanely, they're, like, one guy I think is, like, a famous cyclist or something. He's just, like, outrunning people all day long. But it's really fun. It's, like, who will survive? And, like, I don't want to ruin the ending, but it's got a slight twist of an ending, actually, for this kind of show. All fun. If you really like sort of, like, physical, active reality TV show kind of stuff, these are all really good.
So one thing that's not going to make our list that we, based on what he's saying here, I think we probably should watch is Squid Game because we've never seen it.
Right.
But, like, I like game shows. He likes game shows.
Is that not scripted?
That's a show.
Yeah.
There's now a reality show based on it, but I think it's, like, both of our kind of thing.
Yeah, we should probably watch that show.
Yeah, so we should watch that, but it's not going to make our list because we haven't seen it yet. And so, I mean, who knows? Maybe in a month and a half when we finally finish this list, we'll have added it. So the last one is a duo show, also reality TV, but probably the most pleasant, happy show in the world. And this is the Great British Baking Show / Great British Bake Off, because I think it's called the Bake Off, but only in the UK, because when it got ported over, when it was on PBS, it was the Bake Off, but now that Netflix owns it, I think it's just the British Baking Show, and it has something to do with, like, licensing and...
Right.
But who cares?
You've never seen a more bloodthirsty, cutthroat, backstabbing... Actually, no. Everybody on this show is remarkably pleasant and likable.
Yeah.
You've never seen a show where they somehow every year manage to cast like a dozen or so people that are just extremely likable. You're like, oh, wow, this person got eliminated in week 2. That's a shame. I really like that person, but I really like everybody. And, like, they, like, help each other. And the grand prize, you, like, win, like, a plate.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous. But, like, if you like baking shows, and you probably already know about this show.
Right.
But it's awesome. The setup is great. The judges are funny. The hosts are funny. They have a series of, like, 3 stages that work perfectly balanced every episode.
It's such a nice show. Like...
fun, lighthearted show. I like baking shows, and I like when people aren't dicks to each other, so this works out great.
Yeah, like, we do like baking shows. He watches way more than I do, because I've kind of gotten, like, bored with them, but I can't get bored with this show. And part of it's, like, I think part of it is because, like, the prize is a plate, and it's a bunch of amateurs, and it's, like, not... you know, I'm like, okay, great, this is, like, a professional baker, and then there's an amateur baker, and they're all competing. And then there's, like, money involved. And, like, this just feels so, like, people just doing something they really, really like doing for, like, the joy of doing it.
Right.
And so, and again, I mean, maybe it's because it's British as well. Like, it's just very pleasant.
There's usually some great accents involved.
Right, and then there's just random shots of, like, nature and animals strolling about.
Like,
and
here's how I make my buttercream, and a deer's, like, prancing by suddenly. It's like, what's going on here?
It's literally just, if, like, no matter how stressful your life is and how frustrating, it's such a nice relief from everything else that I'm sure the bakers don't think so, because I'm sure it's super stressful to be on it, but it's just so pleasant, and it's, like, heartwarming and comforting, and it's just amazing. Like, my parents told us about it years ago, and, like, early on, and I think this was back when it was on PBS, and they were like, you should watch this baking show from Britain, and we were like, eh. And then we watched the first episode, and that, I think, started the, like, you know, Sir Chunk, like, had no interest, and then from there, he was just like, must watch every baking championship, every baking competition on Earth.
I don't watch them all. I didn't watch the Halloween baking championship this year.
Yeah, you recorded it.
I might end up watching it.
Right, we still have it. He hasn't watched it. But yeah, so it kind of was like, it was the beginning of the end for you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But they were right. It was just so pleasant. It's so hard not to enjoy. So, yeah, and I feel like anybody who's watched it loves this show. There's just, like, nothing about this.
Yeah, it's hugely popular.
To not like. So, so that's the next 10, and then we'll come back with some more in a week, and that's it. So,
boo.